So today I wanted to go over the system that I use for going on stalks, whether that be in the high country, Eastern Plains, Colorado, Alberta, South Dakota, whatever, when I'm solo. You can take some of the methods that I'm going to go over today and implement those if you have a buddy flagging you in or whatever else. But the system that I am going to show you today has been by far uh, the best and the least likely for me to blow an animal out, even though I still probably will at times. But what you need for this system is pretty simple. Some type of a bino harness is handy to hold potentially a small notepad, a pin, things of that nature. The binoculars, range finding binoculars, or a range finder. You 100% need some type of a range finder. In this case, these are the EL ranges, so I have the range finder inside of those. Some sort of a marking panel. This is the Team Eastie's marking panel. It's basically a lightweight version of what the military offers. I'll go over that more in a minute. Some type of compass. This is the Sunto M9 compass. I have this on me all the time when I'm in the backcountry. This is a Brunton True Arc 20. The Silver Ranger 2.0 is another good one. The Sunto MC2 is another good one. You definitely are going to need a compass that can shoot a very precise azimuth. A cell phone, and also a Grizzly water bottle. Actually, that's not true. I just did that because Grizzly's been super cool to us. Although I have been told whatever liquid you put inside of this Grizzly water bottle turns into basically unicorn piss that when you drink it will actually tell you your future for the next year for your hunting future. So let's see. Yep, I'm going to shoot multiple mediocre animals, a shitload of does, and a couple big ones. So it does work. So everybody get a Grizzly water bottle. All right, so what am I going to use these things for? When I see an animal across the canyon at 1,000 yards away, and I'm solo, I'm going to want to take a few different things. When I say a few different things, I'm going to want to take the distance, certain things of notoriety around that animal, take notes on those things. I'm going to shoot an azimuth to it to get a back azimuth. I'm going to take photos of it with my phone and basically put dots where the animal is, specific things maybe in front of it or behind it, things of that nature. So all of these come into play. And I'm going to go through those kind of step by step what I use them for. We're going to get a whiteboard up here. I'm going to kind of do maybe a side view of how this would work, write out the info that I take, and then we're going to go out into the canyon beside my house and we're going to set up kind of a realistic scenario with a 3D target and put all of the things that I'm talking about now, going to show you on the whiteboard, into play on the side of the hill. All right, so we've got the whiteboard up here. I'm going to go through step by step first of what info I'm taking and how that's going to work, and then Steven's going to film over my shoulder of what it looks like from a side view of what I'm talking about. So here we are. I'm on this side of the mountain, giant canyon, deer on the other side of the mountain. I'm going to stalk that deer. So here are the steps I'm going to take, the info I'm going to get. First thing I'm going to do is grab my rangefinder and I'm going to range the distance of that animal. So I'm just going to put DTA, distance to animal, 680 yards, okay? So that's from my position to that animal. Now I'm going to look around and see if there's anything around that animal, specifically behind it, that I can range so I know a little bit easier when I'm coming in from behind it, the distance from said rock, tree, or whatever else, that I'm 40 yards, 50 yards, or whatever from behind the animal in case I can't range back to my last location, which is where this panel comes in. So I've taken the distance, all the info I need of what's around the animal, pertinent information. Now I'm going to take this. This is again the Team Eastie's panel. Super cool dude makes these. I'm going to hang this panel up, either wrap it around my backpack. And that's the exact location that I am at, right? And where I'm taking all this info. That'll also help me find my backpack, which I have lost before. So I'm going to wrap that around my backpack, or I will set it and kind of fasten it to my tripod over my spotting scope. But it needs to be exactly, I need to make sure and put that at the exact location, because now I've got my panel set up, the distance is taken. I'm going to take my compass and I'm going to shoot an azimuth from my current location to the deer. Now, we'll go into other scenarios of that where I might shoot off of that deer when we're on the side of the mountain, and we'll definitely have a soup to nuts course that you can sign up for that'll go on the correct way to shoot an azimuth, as far as many, many other things when it comes to land navigation. So I'm going to shoot my azimuth, and let's say, to keep it simple, from my location to the deer is 186 degrees. Now, what I shot that for is so I can take a back azimuth. And anytime when you shoot an azimuth to figure out your back azimuth, if your original azimuth was over 180 degrees, you subtract 180 to get your back azimuth. If it's under 180, you add. And again, we'll have a full course on how to do that. If you don't want to do the math, this True Arc 20 actually shows you your azimuth and your back azimuth right here in this little window. So for example, if I shot an azimuth of, well, I'll just use 186 degrees, it's over 180, I subtract 180, 6 degrees would be my back azimuth. So when I'm circling around the animal, hopefully not blowing it out, 200 yards behind it, because I know the distance to the animal, so rather than 680, I'm at 880 yards from behind the animal. I've ranged my panel. I know I've got 200 yards to play with. And then I'm going to shoot a 6-degree azimuth from my location back to my last location, which is where my panel is hanging, which should get me within a couple yards of right over the top of the deer, which would be the equivalent of, somebody flagging you in, even better at times. You can use this system with a buddy, without a buddy. Again, this is the best way I've found when I'm by myself. So I've shot the azimuth, and I'm just gonna put, my azimuth was 186, so my back azimuth is 6 degrees. Very important, right? And then Stephen again will film over the top of me here in a sec going over this. So I've got my distance to animal and my back azimuth. I may also jot down some very other specific things like giant boulder at 720 behind the animal. Anything that's going to help me with this stalk not get lost. I might write telephone pole west or something of the animal. Again, any info that's going to help you not get lost when you get over there, because things do go pretty crazy. If you're off target, so to speak, meaning I take off to loop around the back of the animal and I'm off the target visually for an hour trying to get behind it, and I've looped around 2 miles, by the time I get over there, I'm going to forget half the shit that I wrote down anyway, right there, or what I was taking anyway. So that's why I write it down, take notes, everything else. You may, one of the reasons this pen is super handy, you may want to write that shit on your forearm, right? When you're going, so you don't forget, so you have it. So that's where a pen or a Sharpie comes into play. So the next thing I'm going to do is take a drink of water out of my Grizzly water bottle. These actually are super cool. Jake Powers is an awesome dude. I'm going to take my phone, I'm going to snap a photo, kind of blown out back of the entire surrounding of where the deer is. I'm going to put a little dot where that deer is. Then I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and maybe like draw a white line where my approach or potential approach could be. Whatever, again, info that is pertinent is going to be taken, again, with my phone as far as photos go, and I may snap it on the all-in and then zoom in even more. So those are the things that I'm going to do, or the info I'm going to take before I take off onto this stalk. So range it, mark it, shoot an azimuth, get the back azimuth, take some photos, drink water, change your socks, take some photos, make notes on that, and then off I go. So now I'm going to kind of draw this out on here, and then Steven's going to film over my shoulder. Hopefully that'll help it make more sense before we go out on the side of the mountain. All right, so this is a side profile looking down the canyon, obviously, or whatever. We've got me up here. I'm a horrible artist. There's me. Here's the deer. And so again, the first thing I did was the distance to the animal when I ranged it was 680 yards from me to the deer. The distance to the tree, DTT, distance to tree, is 720 yards from my location. So simple math, 40 yards from tree to the deer. However I want to notate this on my phone or on a notepad or on my forearm, I keep it pretty simple. The DTT, distance to tree, DTR, distance to rock, DTA, distance to animal, all that, super simple. So I've done that. Now I'm shooting my azimuth from fat me to big deer, and it's 186 degrees from where my panel is going to be. So we've got, you know, whatever, my panel's here, bright orange panel, whatever. From the deer back to me or back to my panel is 6 degrees because I converted to a back azimuth. So I've got that info. I've taken my photos, everything else. So when I, you know, come out and loop around this animal, and this will make more sense, we're in the canyon by my house, I'm going to be, you know, little me back here, right? Got my little hands, whatever, and I've got my bow and an arrow. Okay, when I'm coming in on this animal, I am going to be able to range from my location back to this panel as I get closer and closer and closer. One, to know for noise that I'm not going to blow it out, when to drop my shoes, things of that nature. When I'm in the red zone, all of that stuff. And then if I need to drop my bino harness to make less noise, once I get to this tree, if I needed to be much more quiet, I could drop a lot of my gear off. And I have a really good idea from this tree to the deer is 40. So as I'm creeping closer and closer and closer, if I don't have time to range it, I can make a quick shot if needed without my rangefinder, again, by knowing this was 40 yards from the deer to here. The farther away you get, this doesn't work. At 1,600 yards, I'm not going to be doing that. But at 680, you can damn sure bet I'm going to be able to get a real accurate range of this tree and that deer. So again, it's that simple. This probably seems super confusing, but once you get kind of the gist of it, and you'll see it on the side of the mountain, biggest thing now is when I come off of looking at the animal and I'm circling way around, figuring out the wind, getting, you know, whatever I've got to do to stay out of the line of sight of the animal. Once I get behind it, I can start confirming my azimuth back and shift accordingly and my distance so I know I'm not blowing out the animal. And when I come over the top, hopefully I'll have something again that can show me I'm about 40, 30, 60, whatever yards from coming over the top of it. And then boom, I take the shot. So that's kind of the info I take. I also, again, take photos and make little notations on the photos, little white dots or whatever else with my phone so I can confirm when I get behind the animal. That might help by looking at those photos. But again, this panel is locked down on top of my pack or on my tripod so I can shoot the back azimuth back to it as well as range back to that to confirm all this info. So looking at this, hopefully that makes some sense. Now we're going to head out on the side of the hill or canyon beside my house and do an actual scenario of a 3D target, me, and how I do that and how I may deviate my azimuth a little bit, meaning if I wanted to come down the ridge line a little bit to come up on top of the animal, I may not shoot my azimuth at the deer. I may shoot it 40 yards away, but that'll make more sense once we're on the side of the mountain. All right, so now we're out here on the canyon and we've kind of simplified this. Originally, we were going to do this quite a bit farther away, but it was just kind of hard to make sense of it. So I'm at my glassing point right here. We've got the canyon in between us. And over there, we've got a, well, it's actually a whitetail because that's the only 3D target I had. We've got a whitetail bedded down just over the top of the ridgeline. So what I'm going to want to do, and this is going to be an up close and personal type of stalk because that deer, visually I can tell, is close to the top of the ridgeline. So like I said earlier, I'm going to range it. And again, this is closer than normally would be, but the deer is 98 yards. So I'm going to write down 98 yards, but let's pretend again, let's say that's 600 yards, but you get the idea either way. So now I want to range the top of that ridge line within reason, and it's about 120 yards, give or take. So 90, 120, 30 yard shot. If I come from directly behind it from where I'm at now. So I'm going to notate that wherever I write that down, my hand, my forearm, on a piece of paper, whatever, write it, put it on my phone. And then I'm going to look, is there anything over there that I should take into consideration to take notes on? In this case, It's bald as a baby's ass, which is not good. Don't have a lot of cover. Again, this is a very easy stock in some ways because there's not a lot for me to worry about other than when I come over that ridge line, I've got one chance to take that shot. I'm not going to be able to, if that deer was 60 yards over the top of that crest, I would be able to maybe pop up a couple times and take a look and look for those antlers. But in this case, when I step over that ridge line, I'm going to have to take the shot, meaning I may even draw my bow when I know I'm close and step. I may not even have time to draw once I get to the top. So once I've done that, now I'm going to take the azimuth or take the berry. So with this is what I carry with me quite a bit. This is an M9 like I talked about before. I'm just going to pop this off, and we'll get a zoom in on this later. And I'm going to take my bearing 240 degrees. So as I talked about before, 240 degrees, that's over 180, so I subtract. Now, if you don't like doing math, one of the beauties of this other compass, so this is the True Arc from Brunton. This actually gives you your back azimuth at the same time. So when I shoot it, and I shoot my azimuth, and I'm going to get the little dog in the box, it actually gives me 240 and 60 at the same time. So I have my bearing and I have my back bearing, or my azimuth and my back azimuth. So 60 degrees from the position I'm in right now is what I'm going to want to shoot back to this position. So when I say shoot back, I'm going to pop my handy dandy, and I think everybody should own one of these Team Eastie's orange panels out. And I'm either going to wrap this around my pack, or in this case, secure it somehow to my spotting scope. And when I say secure it, if this is 1,000 yards, a mile away, or I got to do a 2.5 mile loop around, no matter what, make sure it's secure, but a lot can happen. So make sure this bad boy, carry rubber bands, some P-cord or something, and tie this up where it cannot blow away and it's visible. So we've got a little bit of wind. I'm going to kind of redneck this up here. All right. Voila. So I've got my orange panel. And again, the importance of this orange panel cannot be stressed enough, because when I come in from back there, this is going to be my marker for my distance, my marker for my back azimuth, and really just to make sure I'm half-assed close before I can shoot my azimuth. So in this case, I may not be able to come in from behind that and shoot a back azimuth directly behind the deer because I'm going to be too close. So what I might want to do is, rather than shooting at the deer, come to the left because of how that deer is angled right now. If I come from the exact direction from where I am now to the deer above it, it's going to be a hard cornering away shot. So I might shoot my azimuth over here, and when I say over here, to the left of the deer, and figure out a little bit of redneck reasoning what that distance may be when I pop over the top. But that's going to give me a little bit of cushion and leeway to shoot an azimuth, a back azimuth if I need to, or shoot my back azimuth if I need to, so the deer doesn't blow out if it's super close. Now today, yeah, worst possible scenario, there's absolutely very little wind, which means there's very little room for error, but that also means I can drop a bomb. So if the wind was worse, that's a good thing, because I'm able to come right over the top of it like I'm walking into Walmart, because I got a 20, 30 mile an hour wind, but that also makes for a difficult shot. So you have to kind of assess what's going on as far as the weather. When the wind is really cranking, deer's probably not going to hear me, especially if I'm in socks, so I may not take that azimuth or that bearing to the left of the deer. I got the wind, and I'm not going to have to worry about that. Today, if I had to go shoot this deer today, we would be basically naked coming over that hill. I would not have my bino harness on me. If in this case, these are range finding binos. If I had my other system, I would actually have a handheld rangefinder. I would pop this off, meaning my harness, and I would put my rangefinder in my pocket, in one of them, just so I had less noise. Pant legs would be rolled up, and we'll go into all of this in a different course. Pant legs would be rolled up, or I'd be like South Cox in my underwear, certainly would be in my socks. So as of right now, what I'm going to do, rather than shooting the deer, I'm going to shoot an azimuth probably 30 yards to the left of the deer. So just, I'll do it again real quick right here. And we're closer to 220 degrees rather than 240. So if I'm at 220, I've got to subtract 180. So that's 40 degrees. Did I do that right? I think I did that right. So 40 degrees. So then I'm going to want to shoot for 40 degrees because I'm going to be coming to the left of the deer when I come over the top. So again, we have a full top to bottom, soup to nuts course on land navigation, on how to shoot a bearing, how to operate all of these things that will be on the Patreon account, and you can learn all of this in much more depth. So we've got everything we need. Hypothetically, or ideally right now, I've got the distance to the deer, got my bearing to come just before the deer so I can pop up, and I'm going to be looking for the tops of those antlers when I pop up. Once I get enough to where I can see back to this panel and I haven't seen the antlers, I'm going to take a quick, again, bearing back to know I'm in the right location, try to be as quiet as I can. If I haven't seen the antlers, that means I'm probably okay. I've confirmed that back azimuth or that bearing, so I know I'm somewhat in line with where I need to be. I'm going to take a range so I know the distance is correct, and that should put me pretty much in line with everything I need to take the shot. And again, a lot of this is going to depend on the wind, how the distance of where the deer is from over. And again, right now we're only 100 yards away. If this is 1,000 yards away and I've got to shoot way back to loop around behind the deer, I'm going to be fairly confused by the time I get over there. I've lost eyes on the target. I've been wandering around trying to loop in, where this is going to be really important with all the different dimensions or distances and everything else I took. So don't get confused. Obviously, this is easy. The deer's there. It's not that big of a deal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change camera positions, and I'm going to show, we're behind my house, but I'm going to show what I would do as far as looping back around the deer. And then we're going to go over there and film me coming over the top, confirming the back azimuth and what that would look like when I'm looking for those top antlers and the angle of that deer. The one other thing I didn't talk about, though, is the wind. In this case right now, the wind is coming from my left as I'm facing the camera over. So why does that matter if the deer's not going to smell me anyway, because the wind's in a good direction? If I don't do these things I talked about and I pass that deer, there's a good chance that deer could smell me depending upon the wind direction. And that has a lot to do with the angle that I'm coming in from and everything else. So you have to take the wind into consideration. Today, while the wind's really low, I'm not probably, unless something changes, I'm not going to get winded. And I know I can come in directly from behind the deer or excuse me, to the left from where I'm at right now. Of course, that's going to be to the right of the deer once we get over there. So panel set up. I know my distance. I know everything I need to know. Now we're going to reverse camera angles, and I'm going to walk through what I would do to get to this deer. Again, this is 100 yards, but let's pretend it's 1,000 yards away. I've got all the same, measurements and everything I need, but what it's going to look like when I come over the top. All right, so we've taken all the dimensions, the distances. I've got my azimuth or bearing, my back azimuth, but we went over in that video earlier kind of the final approach part. You also need to take into consideration what you're going to do to get to the point where you're in the red zone. So in this case, again, the deer's just 100 yards away, but we're going to pretend it's 1,000. I've got this big drainage here. So back there's my neighbor's house, but I'm going to go back up this drainage, kind of parallel it where I'm out of the sight of the deer. And again, when it's farther away, that's easier. I'm going to cut over across that drainage back there, wherever it makes sense where the deer can't see me. So that'll maybe be 300 to 500 yards back, whatever that is. And I'll just figure that out along the way. I plan as I go. That's not going to be that precise of a route, right? I'm going to go back until the deer can't see me. Once I go across the drainage, all I'm looking for at this point is to come in far enough behind that ridge line over there. And the lighting's a little bit bad today, but come over on the other side of that ridge line. And then when I'm coming down that ridge line, I'm going to be far enough on the back side of it to where that deer is not going to be able to hear me or see me before I start that final approach. Now, once I get back in there and I am close enough to where I feel that, okay, I need to get serious, that's when I'm going to figure out, okay, I think I'm close enough. I'm going to drop my shoes, probably want to mark those so you don't lose them. I'm going to drop my shoes, be in my socks, get an arrow nocked, get everything ready, drop off whatever I need to do to make that final approach for in the red zone. So it's pretty easy with this. Go up the canyon, cross that drainage, get on the other side of the ridgeline of where the deer is, and then start moving my way down. And again, that's where it comes into play, where I can see this panel, I can shoot the back azimuth. And once you get more comfortable with shooting a back azimuth, I can kind of do a little redneck reasoning with math, figuring I'm probably 100 yards, 150 yards, because again, the bearings and the back azimuth are lining up, knowing how much I need to move down as I can see this panel. We're going to go over there now, get behind the deer, and kind of give you an idea of firsthand what I'm doing when I'm going to make that shot and that final approach to harvest or kill a deer. Okay, so I went down the drainage, crossed over, came down the backside of this, and I've just come up from the backside of where the deer is, meaning the deer is over there. Now, this is a big added bonus because this is actually flat. I thought from over there, I knew it wasn't because I live here, but from over there, it looked like it was quite rounded, and I would be coming in right on top of the deer before I could see my panel. I pop up here and I can see that panel clear as day. So that means I can get the distance immediately, far before I get to the actual deer or the moment of truth. So this flat ground is a bonus, other than I got to cross it and be quiet. So I've come up here. Now I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to immediately, knowing I've got a little room for noise now, meaning I can make more, I'm going to pop up here, and it's 116 yards away. So I know now at 116 from the dimensions I took how close I am to that deer. I think when I ranged the deer before, it was 90. And then the top was like, I don't know, 117, 120, right? So obviously I wrote that down. I need to get out of my pocket. So I know a couple different things. One, I'm really close to that panel. So that deer is probably over that way, but that's redneck guessing. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to shoot back. And remember, 60 degrees was where we wanted to be, coming over right over the top of the deer and then shifting over. You know, it was, I think it was like 40 degrees, right? So 40 was where I think I was going to take that shot. And again, you want to take notes and write all of this down and everything else. So right now, if I shoot back to this deer, oh, that sun is horrible. I'm at 30. So I need to go 10 degrees over more to my left to be where I want to take that shot. But I get to do that back here, far away from the deer. That's kind of the beauty of this flat bench. So I'm going to shift far away from the deer over down to where I'm more into that 40 to 50 degree range, knowing that I'm going to sneak up and then take the shot. The other thing now I also know is, okay, like I said, I'm 116 or whatever from here to the panel. When do I drop my shoes? Okay, now I drop my shoes. Once I came over this, I'm leaving these shoes. They'll be easy to see. They're on a bench. I'm going to go to my socks immediately, way before I even get any closer. I've seen the panel. I know everything I need to know. Shoes come off. The harness may come off. If there's a lot of brush, I may be dropping my pants, or at least tucking my socks in or rolling my pants up. So now I'm going to nock an arrow, and this is hugely important. I'm going to have this ready. Now, once I've got the arrow nocked, I want to have my rangefinder, if I'm just using a handhold, ready to go. Anything that's going to make noise, get it off me, get it away. Basically going up here half naked. And when I say that, I'll strip down to a t-shirt, a sleeveless. I don't care about camo, because if that deer sees me, it's gone anyways. So now, lo and behold, I can see the deer's horns from right here. So Stephen, let's see if we can get a shot of that, because I'm looking for the top of those antlers. Okay, so now you've shit your pants, you're shaking, like this is where things go bad, right? So you see the top of those antlers. he's facing, I can see from the way his antlers are pointing, right? The main beams are going forward. So I'm like, okay, the main beams are going forward. Was he facing to the left or to the right? I forgot. That's where you write that shit on your forearm or your palm. Like literally what direction he's facing. Was he cornering away? Was he cornering to? Am I going to be able to take a shot? Now, if you're real shifty or if the wind's blowing, I'm actually going to, he's facing dead away. If the wind's cranking, that deer's dead. But wind's not cranking. So I've just seen the antlers. And again, I am going to leave that open for this last approach. So if I can, I'm going to take a look. Okay. All right, I've got a good idea of where that deer is, the angle he's at, and everything else. And I'm going to now assess, and I won't roll these up. I'm going to look and say, okay, like right here at my feet, this is important. What do I have? I have a massive pile of cactus that I could step in and drop me like a sniper hit me. I've got a bush over here, right? And I'm like leaning back a little bit, and I'm like, okay, there's my approach. I'm in socks right now. Don't forget, I don't want to step on that cactus. There's my approach. Do I draw now and take a step forward? Or do I take a step forward or two and draw? For me, depending upon the wind, I really don't want to draw and step forward if I don't have to. So that deer's facing away. She does not know I'm here. I'm not going to draw yet. I am basically going to look at what I've got in front of me. There's some twigs and sticks. Like I said, I'm knocked up. I'm going to take a step here. I'm going to keep my eyes up, look down. I've got a good clean step here. Okay, now I know my next step may be the shot I'm going to take. So I'm going to take this step. I can see the deer clear as a bell. Can I take the shot? I can't. There's a bush in the way. Don't freak out. Don't panic. The deer's also kind of cornering slightly to me. I'm going to assess like, okay, can I sneak it in? Can I get it to where I want it to be? And again, these are all things I can figure out from over there. I knew this ahead of time. I know where I'm going to sneak that arrow in. I got to take one more step. And also, I'm not going to range it right now. I know that deer from here's, let's take a guess. I'm going to say 30. 27 yards. So in another video I'll talk about using your 30-yard pin for everything from 40 to 20. It's 27 yards, 20-yard pin all day right now. I would have literally shot it for 25 because I thought it was 30 just to be safe, but I've got one more step I'm going to take, and I'm going to be able to shoot this deer. I'm going to step forward, draw my bow. That was loud. Okay, can I sneak it in here? I'm going to give it a try. Where I shot was into the scapula on the back side. I don't know if that's where I hit, but right now I can't see the entire body. When you get to here, the body's kind of covered, but I can see it to the left. I can see where his shoulder's going to be and where I'm going to want to try to put that arrow into his heart. I took the shot, so let's see where I hit. So that is almost exactly where I wanted to be. I'm a little close to that shoulder knuckle. I would not have hit it. I would have gotten perfect onside lung, back of offside lung. That's a dead deer. So the thing that with all of this that I really want people to take into consideration using this method, when I came in from over to the left or to the right, however you want to look at it, left from when I was glassing it, this deer, if I wanted to shift over more, knowing at the time that I didn't have a lot of wind, but I knew exactly really where the deer was because of all the info I took earlier. If I wasn't comfortable taking a slightly quartering to shot, I could easily have shifted over more and come. The only bad thing about that, Steven, film down there. See my fat head? That is bad, right? So if I'm coming in with the sun directly behind me, and I didn't mention this earlier, if I would have come in to have a perfectly broadside shot, that deer, without a doubt, would have blown out of his bed and been literally in Montana by now because of that shadow. And that's one of the other reasons why you would want to take into this into consideration is coming in up from the deer like I did, because he would not have been able to see my shadow because of the direction of that sun. All of these things are important. But again, all the info I took over there gave me enough to feel confident when I came in over the top that I was going to be able to get a shot like this. And I think I shot 9 deer like this, the one with Ryan Rotier a couple years ago and Jerry Shaw. was the exact same angle. And I actually hit it, I say exact same angle, I actually hit it here. It was at 9 yards. And that was just in front of the shoulder. But knowing the anatomy of this animal and everything else, this is a dead deer every time.